Welcome to the Clear the Shelf podcast with Chris and Chris, the show that meets at the intersection of education and entertainment to discuss online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, and all facets of selling on Amazon. We'll bring you news, tactics, strategies, insights, stories, and interviews to help you grow your Amazon business. And now, here are your hosts, Chris Grant and Chris Rasick. What is going on, Amazon sellers, and welcome back to the Clear the Shelf podcast with myself and my winsome co-host, Chris Rasick. I know we've been MIA for about 60 days or so, and that's my fault. We had another OA challenge in January. There's been a couple of Amazon conferences here recently, and to be quite honest, just a little bit of laziness on my part getting back into it. But I know that I'm glad we're back in the saddle, and I know that we appreciate everyone who's reached out and asked about when the pod was coming back on the air, and that's really been the driver for us really getting back into this. So this week we're going to discuss a topic that I don't know if it's covered quite enough. You see, we hear about online arbitrage leads quite often. What are the good ones? Be Chris's list. He offers some one-time lists that are pretty good. We hear about the bad ones, the ones that everyone wants to stay away from. But what we never really hear is how you're probably using your lead list improperly. And what you may actually consider a bad lead list may actually be fair or even good. But what's missing is how you actually work that lead list and make it work for you. So today I think we're going to discuss the proper way to actually use online arbitrage lead lists. And I'm even going to give a real world example of something that I did with Chris's lead list from the other day to be able to make your return on your investment and the profit an order of magnitude larger than you might expect from the lead list or the stats that come at the bottom of many lead lists. But before we get started, I know it's been a while, and I just want to kind of catch up with Chris. So, Chris, how's life and business been, man?
Ups and downs, as usual. It's a weird time of year, and I didn't experience it in the beginning of January, but it's been a little sluggish for me. So, but it's just a matter of putting in the reps. But overall, pretty good. Some adventures with my account health rating. I got my first call from, which I think my heart rate's finally come down after a couple days after seeing that on the caller ID. So, it crossed that off my non-bucket list, I guess. But right. But it's been a while. There's one thing I want to give a PSA if I can, and this isn't the right audience. I think most of the people listening to this are not this type of person. But I want to do a public service announcement for it. If you person or this person, get help or have them get help. Because tell me if you've experienced this. So you get the refund initiated email, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's just me, but every time I click on that email, like as the email's loading, I'm always like in my head going, "Don't be expensive, don't be expensive, don't be expensive," right? And then and then I'm reading it. So. And when you get those, like the reason is all the way over to the right. So I'm always interested to see what the reason is. And the people, so I get this last one that I got, the one that stuck in my mind is fulfillment promise not met or whatever, delivered late or like there's a couple different variations of that. But right. So you get those every once in a while. And I'm like, well, all right. So at least I know most likely the product's coming. So that's the bright side that I look at. But then I scan to the left and I the product is. And this last one that I got, it was delivered late. So the refund returned and it was a stick of deodorant. when I scanned over to the left. Like, what, like this, whoever that person is, they need therapy. Something is going on in your head. You've had some sort of trauma to where, what stage of life do you have to be in to where you go on Amazon and you're like, if I don't get some powder fresh on my pits in 2 days or less, I'm gonna lose my mind. And then the 2 days goes by and there's no powder fresh in on your doorstep, and you go, oh, like what kind of poor planning and bad life decisions have you met that you have such a tight window for your antiperspirant to show up? Now, I'm not talking about like delivered late, the delivered one day after Christmas. Thanks for ruining little Timmy's Christmas. Like that's I think that's an important distinction. Those are different kinds of people. Those are, those are Karens. Those are fans of asymmetrical haircuts, and they're probably beyond help, right? So I'm not talking about those people, right? I'm talking about this returned late, and it's just some random on it. Like, and so say it took 3 or 4 days. Why wouldn't you just open it up and put it in your medicine cabinet anyway? Even if you've had to leave the house and go to Walmart and get a different kind of deodorant, or it just doesn't, like, seek help if that you're returning stuff and getting refunds because delivery was late.
Absolutely. Please. I would really love to know what that person does for a living. Like that, I don't know, that almost sounds like they're like an engineer or a CPA, and they've got all their order, like it's date stamped in a spreadsheet, and they know exactly when to hit the button to return it or whatever it is. And that's frustrating as hell, man.
It is. It seems like it's like one of those, like, if they're married, their spouse does a whole bunch of stuff where if they stopped doing it, they wouldn't have any idea how to do it anymore. Like,
right.
Those are probably like the husbands that don't know what bank their mom, and couldn't get money out, something like that. They need help.
That is so frustrating. And I don't know. I'm hoping that tones down a bit, although I don't see it happening. I mean, I know Amazon wants to keep the customer happy. Seller be damned. But I don't know. I would like to get to the point where people are just kind of like, you know what? It's a stick of deodorant. I'll use it next month. It's not going bad.
Right. Yeah. And it's small and light. Like, is that $8.99 that important to you to get back? Like, there was the Venn diagram of needing that $9 versus, being a little bit stinky in the pits.
Right.
I don't know. It's a tiny little sliver, I thought.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to the main event, I do want to bring something up. So now that we're back, I want to say that we don't hide this show behind a paywall, but it doesn't mean that the content is free. All right. So if you find some value in the podcast, either on YouTube or on your favorite podcast player, please hit the follow button, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, because I'll be quite honest with you, seeing the pod rise in the charts, seeing the number of subscribers on YouTube go up and to the right is enough of a dopamine hit that kind of keeps us coming back and making more of this for you. Because we don't do this during office hours. We do it off office hours, in the evenings. And so do us a huge solid and just hit the follow or the subscribe button wherever you are, and we'd really appreciate it, and give you a solid digital handshake through the podcast. So I would appreciate that. But let's talk a little bit about what has happened while we've been away. So first thing, before we talk about OA lead lists, the past 2 weekends in a row, I have gone to Amazon seller conferences. This past weekend was the Unconference, which was put together by kind of some older, long-term Amazon sellers. It's been around for, I think, 7 years now, and it's just the idea behind the Unconference was let's take those moments in between the moments or in between the speakers, and let's make that an entire weekend where you essentially, sit around and you chew the fat, you share what's working, what's not working, and even kind of break up into these little tribes and talk about different things. Credit card points over here, sourcing over here, just chit chat over there. And it's nice. It's very, very laid back. The weekend before that, I was at the Miami Seller Conference, which was a completely different vibe. A lot of young sellers, a lot of new blood, but a ton of value, to be quite honest. I knew some people were asking me if I thought there was going to be any value in it, and there was a metric ton of it. And going to these events, it kind of reminded me of a couple of things because I haven't been to an Amazon Seller Conference in years. Would have been before COVID. Would be the last one that I went to. And so one, it really kind of got me amped back up. I was around people who love this business, who enjoy this business, and I got to talk shop with them, and that energy kind of rubs off on you. And so for at least the next several months, I know that I'm kind of amped back up. Two, mindset is really, really big. And we've talked about it before, you and I have, Chris. And I know we try not to get too woo-woo on the pod, even though I think we're both, probably fairly heavy readers of self-help and self-development books and things like that. But it's very easy to see how quickly you can become more cynical than one might already be. I know that I tend to look through things through a cynic's eye on occasions. I'd go out on a limb and say you might be the same way. And that's an easy habit to fall into. But keeping a positive mindset is a huge advantage. And then number three, the magic really is in between the speakers. The moments between the moments, if you will. Now, I don't want anyone to think that I'm downplaying the importance of speakers. Heck, I was one of the speakers at the Miami Seller Conference, so of course I want people to listen. But when you want to get some tactical knowledge, you want to find out some useful information that you could use to make money maybe in the next day or the next week after the conference is over. The information that's shared during the breaks, that's shared when you're bellied up to the bar talking shop, that really is where some of the best stuff comes from. And it's not just Amazon Seller Conferences. I've been to conferences for the insurance industry, for other e-com businesses that I've had, and it's always the same. So what I want to say about this is, even if you're an introvert, even if you don't like to come out from behind your keyboard, which trust me, I get, speaking on stage in front of a bunch of people is, well, honestly, scared the shit out of me. Put me behind a camera and give me my keyboard for protection, and I'm happy to chat away for hours and hours. But you get up in front of an audience and it's completely different. But get out of your comfort zone. Go to some networking events, whether they're local to you or maybe you need to drive an hour away. Get out there to a conference for Amazon sellers. And if you go with an open mind and a willingness to learn, I doubt that you'll be disappointed from what you bring home with you. So
yeah, I regret missing that one. I wanted Idlin. There were a bunch of people that I wanted to actually see in person. So yeah, I'm glad it was a good one. We've talked about networking before. It's so important, and it's difficult in this business. There's a lot of hurdles and obstacles, which keep you from being network potentially. It just the way it's set up and the way we operate. But it can be so beneficial. What's the saying? Your net worth is your network, right? So much good stuff comes from networking, like this podcast that everyone's listening to, that we're recording right now, essentially that's that developed from the networking that and the talking that you and I had done, and just talking enough and networking enough about business and habitations to where I felt comfortable enough. I wouldn't say I was fully comfortable when I pitched the idea to you, but it took, it took a little warming up until I thought it was a good idea. And before I thought it was a good idea to say it out loud to you, So, and there's a lot of opportunities, like it, not even just conferences, like, do the meetups, anytime, like, you ran your OA challenge. There's always people that are saying, hey, anybody else in this area? On Twitter, we're both trying to be more active on Twitter. And you start having, you end up mentioning, a store or a, random sports team or something, and you start piecing together what general areas. Next thing you know, I've got DMs, saying, hey, I'm about 20 minutes north, if you ever want to have a cup of coffee. It's like, it can be tough to talk shop, but it's valuable. It's the mastermind that I've had running for almost 2 years now. It's changed a couple different times, but the one thing that hasn't changed is that we get together every week on Zoom, we talk shop. It's so beneficial, multiple ways to be able to talk to peers, serious stuff, or whether it's just talking to people that do some of the same things that you do, that can be pretty rare.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that someone reached out and said they were 20 minutes north of you. In the Amazon space, like that's a natural thing to happen. And if you're not in the Amazon space, that's a really easy way to get yourself on Dateline. So let's dive into talking about OA lists. So if you spend any time on social media, there almost seems to be two camps. There are the folks who are like, our online arbitrage lists, leads lists are fantastic. And then you've got other people who are like, that's the dumbest thing you could ever spend money on. I'm firmly in a third camp, in that, yes, you need to know how to source yourself, because everyone wants to hire a VA, for example. And if you don't know how to source, you can't effectively teach it. However, I think that online arbitrage, or any arbitrage lead list, is probably worth the money. All right. And now, of course, you need to vet them, make sure you're buying a good list or subscribing to a good list. And the easiest thing to do is make sure you're on Chris's email list, so that you can grab one of his when they come out. But if you use a lead list properly, it should very easily at least be profitable, number one. But two, your ROI on a lead list should be massive, okay? And we're going to tell you exactly how to do that. So first question I want to ask to you, Chris, is your last lead list came out a few days ago. And this is what made me write this thread on Twitter. Remind me the price point on that lead list for it.
That was $15.
$15.
$15, and then people know this, but my mailing list knows this. I send out, if you're on the mailing list, you get first access list that I offer once I publish it, and you get a little bit of discount. There's a secret exclusive code that goes out in the email, so save a little bit of money. It was even cheaper than that.
Perfect. And if you want to get on Chris's email list, go grab the there's a goal sheet down below that'll put you right on Chris's email list. So I snagged that list that Chris sold the other day for $15. All right. And I opened it up, and the very first lead was a bit of a banger. All right. I'm not sure that I'm young enough to say that, but I'm going to go ahead and go with it. All right. The bestseller rank was consistently under 50,000 in grocery. Right. The profit on it at the time was over $5. And yeah, based on the buy price, that would have been a consistent $5 profit since October 20th or earlier. All right. So that's well over 3 months. All right. It was a 58% ROI, and that was only including, I think, the coupon code that was available in the lead list. I may have been able to find something more if I wanted to go digging, but 58% ROI, greater than $5 profit, that's perfect for me. Over the past year, there had never been more than 6 sellers on this particular ASIN. All right. That is super solid, especially nowadays when you can see some really hot products, have 200 or 300 sellers. I saw an ASIN recently. We're in February, so it's well past Q4, and I saw an ASIN shoot up to like 250 sellers in a February. All right, and of course you know what's happened to the price. It's just fallen like a rock. The buy box.
Can we call that, like, when you look at the Keepa graph and the wait, I'm trying to do the camera, like, the price is going down and the seller count's coming up. Can we label the pinch?
Ooh, the pinch. I like it. Yes.
I that needs to take off. Like, I want that to be the term.
That is a much better term than here's the inverse correlation between supply and demand curves.
As much as that rolls off the
pinch
tongue,
sounds much better. Now, back to this lead. This lead that Chris had, the buy box had also been literally a flat line since October. All right, so price has not, maybe changed a penny or two here and there, but not very much. All right, but here's the thing. Oh, and Chris's lead list was limited to, I think, 15 people. Okay, you can tell me if I'm wrong there.
That one was 25 people.
That was 20. Okay, so that one was limited to 25 people. Now, I know that, I don't know, I'll say 20% of the people probably never going to open the lead list after they purchase it. Is that crazy? Yeah, absolutely. But that's the numbers that I expect on a lead list. 20% of the people are going to buy it, never use it. Out of the other 80% of the people who open it, I figure that, I don't know, 40% of them are going to be gated in any one particular lead it happens. All right. And maybe they don't want to take the time, or maybe it's in a category they don't even want to sell. All right. So now I'm looking at sold to 25 people. I'm down to about 40% of them. We don't do public math here, but not everyone's going to buy it. So maybe there's going to be, I don't know, an extra 8 to 10 sellers on the listing. Yeah. So I still didn't buy the lead. Okay. But the reason that this lead was still so great was not that it was profitable, not that it's a potential replen, but it introduced me to a brand new niche that I hadn't really thought about before. All right. Now, this was a product that I've seen in the past. Okay. But this, I would call this being a religious grocery item. All right. Which, I don't know, it's just not something that crosses my mind every single day. Although, if you think about it, there are a fair amount of what could be considered religious grocery items. Okay. Manischewitz, some blessed grape juice, all kinds of stuff could make it into the religious grocery niche. All right. It introduced me to a brand new site that I've never seen before. Right. Because, I'm not in this particular niche. I'm not looking for this particular kind of site, but there it was. Okay. And so it also showed me a brand that I've never seen in the past. Again, because I'm not in this niche, I don't know of it. Okay. So I've got 3 things that have now been introduced to me that I didn't know before. 3 new pieces of knowledge, a new niche. I've got a new website, and I've got a new brand. Okay. So my very first steps are, let's go and source this entire website, or at least a portion of it. Let's go and source this brand in Keepa, which are the 2 things that I did very first off. All right. The other thing about this lead is it had 3 current sellers on the listing. All right. It had 25 historical sellers on the listing. So I could go back, and what I noticed is that if you looked at some of the storefront names, it was obvious that some of them were selling heavily in this particular niche. Probably not just the grocery niche, okay, but across this entire kind of religious niche, they're selling in it. All right, a couple of those storefronts. So I could go and very easily find probably several more items from those storefronts that I could go find profitably. All right. The next thing is that I took some time. I actually sourced some products from this new site. So I could have bought the lead from Chris's list, but then I could have also filled my cart up with, 4 or 5 other products, no problem. Okay. Then I Googled each product that I found that looked promising to see if there were other retailers who might have it for cheaper. I was able to find a couple of other retailers that way. Well, that took me down the rabbit trail of, if I could find this product at niche site A and niche site B, well, there's got to be another 4 or 5 sites like this. So I went to a tool called SimilarWeb. If you're not sure what SimilarWeb is, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. You go in and you put in a website, and it tells you other places on the internet that are similar to it. So for example, if you were to put in Facebook, it would say, well, the similar websites to this are TikTok, Twitter, they might pull up MySpace if that's even still around, and maybe a couple of other social media sites. You put in Walmart, it's going to show you Target and Walgreens and several other sites as well. Well, that's exactly what I did here. It actually had 10 sites that were similar to this particular niche site that Chris showed. Hey guys, wanted to take a quick second and thank you for listening to the Clear the Shelf podcast. My magnanimous co-host Chris Rasick has put together a gift for you for being a listener. It's called the Monthly Goal Tracking Spreadsheet, and it's free. The spreadsheet will help you break down and track how much you've purchased, which should be a leading indicator of how much you will sell, and then you'll be able to track how much you've sold as well as your estimated monthly profit on a daily basis. This will all feed into the daily averages so you can ensure that you're on track to meet your goals each and every month. Grab it for free today over at cleartheshelf.com/goal-tracking. Thanks again for being a listener. Now back to the show. The other thing I did, if you don't want to use SimilarWeb, is if you just go to the Google machine and you type in related, and then the name of the site. Okay, so related, Walmart.com. You're going to come back with a list of sites that show you similar websites. And so Google will do the work for you. All right. I don't think it's quite as accurate as SimilarWeb because SimilarWeb uses some scraping tools and some human intelligence to put things together. But I did both of these things. Okay. And I was able to find at least 10 other sites like this. So now, by taking this one lead, spending a little bit of time with it, and I know that I'm kind of drawing this out, but this probably really only took me 5 minutes in total, okay? I was able to find 5 potential new sources that I know are not trafficked anywhere near, like Walmart, Target, Walgreens, Kohl's, etc., and all the other main street stores that you hear about, okay? I found 5 potential new replens, and if they're not replens, I'm at least going to be able to sell them once. They had beautiful keepagraphs, okay? And that was just one lead, all right? So there were 18 other leads on that list. Well, I know 20 times 5 is a lot, so 19 times 5 is pretty close to a lot, okay? If I could take each one of those leads and turn it into 5 others without ever even buying off the list, I would have made my money back an order of magnitude way more than I spent on the lead list, okay? And now, I know what some people are going to say. I could just do that on my own. I just go find these products on my own, okay? Sure, you probably could, but would you think of looking at religious groceries? No, it's not on my mind. You know, what other niches are you not seeing just because it's just not on your mind. You're not thinking about it. You're not normally sourcing there. Okay. Now, I say all of this because a lot of people will buy things from a lead list, and something will have some price suppression, and then of course everyone wants to decry the quality of the lead list. They let too many people buy it, and this and that. Okay. But what I would suggest is, before you do any of that, is take a step back and evaluate the quality of your sourcing from that lead list. All right. Because even though a lead list is a done for you service, you should not stop there. Okay. Because the Amazon sellers that consistently go the extra mile are going to be the ones who win in the long term. Okay. And I know that by doing what I did, even off that one lead, I made more than the entire lead list cost. And now multiply that out by 18 other leads, I'm going to make exponentially more. And who knows how many of those are going to turn into something that I can replenish over and over and over again. Okay. And I know a lot of people are then going to say, well, you might only be able to sell that for the next 3 months, and then it's going to tank and it's never going to come back. And well, to that I say nay, that's not true. And I give you a perfect example of it. Just this morning, I was going back through old lead lists, all right, because I keep a lead database, and I found something that was on a lead list in 2020, August of 2020 to be exact. It's in stock at a site right now. I can buy it for $19. It has sold on Amazon in the past for between $35 and $37. Leaves me about $4.72 after fees and inbound shipping and all of that, even after prep costs. Okay. And that's about a 25% ROI. It's not in stock right now on Amazon. It's currently out of stock. It's been out of stock for a little over 3 months. But I can tell by looking at the Keepa graph that it will sell if I bring it back in stock. So I went ahead and bought 10 of them, sent it to Amazon. I'll be the only person on the listing at $38. And until the rank gets better, I'm going to own that buy box. Okay? And that's the power of going through these old lists. So the very next thing I did with Chris's list is I saved it to my leads database so that in 60 or 90 days from now, I'll come back to it after everyone else has forgotten about the lead list they bought, and then I'll start sourcing directly from the list itself. Okay? And it just turns into this one big cycle where eventually, after 3, 4, 5 years, I mean, you could almost not source anything but your old lead lists any longer. It's insane. So it was a long story, but I'm curious what you think about that, or what things I may have missed, kind of in that whole story there.
Well, it's there. The point is that you got to keep peeling. There's more layers to the onion to peel back. I think that's fantastic the way you put it. And not enough people are thinking of it that way. And that's evidenced by the fact that in my experiences with other leads I've subscribed to, we both use the same lead database, for old leads and products. I don't know if you want to mention that or not, but
yeah, I will. We both use Cheddarsoft, and there will be a link down below the in the show notes. They're not a sponsor of the show, but there is going to be an affiliate link out there if you guys want to use it.
Yeah, it's side note, like people, we've talked about how replens, the word air quotes replens, it's almost become more of a marketing term than the actual value of the definition of what it is. It seems like a lot of people, it's used to kind of sell courses and programs and stuff more than it's gained this mythical definition now. I think maybe that's just me, but I don't think enough people are executing on what a true replend is, and I think that's evidenced by going back to old lead lists, and I'm sure you probably saw flashes of it. I can't tell you how many products, when I go back over old lead lists, you can see the point that it got published, right? Because a lot of the times, and what people say, the anti-lead list people will say is they'll see the pinch, right? Because that's what it's called.
That's right.
Officially, it's what it's called. But you'll see that pinch. The price erodes, seller count goes up, right? Which it doesn't happen on all the leads, but unfortunately, more than we wish it would, right? So you can see that part at a time. You can see a date, and then steadily, that inventory starts to thin out. The seller count thins out. Price starts creeping back up, and then, but if there even is one, but the bump in seller count, like, a couple months after it's been published, or a few months and longer, there's no real rise in seller count again. So it's about as close to evidence that we're going to get that most people on lead lists aren't keeping track. They're not keeping a database. They don't go back to them and buy them again. We just, in our mastermind, that was earlier today before we recorded, we were talking about one of the people in my mastermind said that they're basically on a 30-day delay for their lead lists. Essentially, they don't get that day's lead list with any intention to buy anything on. They're simply going to catalog it, and they're going to come back to it on 30 days. And essentially, it's okay, I got this on February 28th, so March 28th, I'm going to actually go back to it. So it's enough time to, most likely it's enough time to see the full impact of the exposure that it got by being published on a list. That's probably, the peak is probably in that keep a graph already, right? It's enough time to actually, whether that takes a couple of days and then deliver to a prep center, and then the prep center needs to take some time to actually ship it in, needs to go live, whatever feels like is good enough to get the vast majority of that on the keep a graph.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But there's never of a second wave from these, and I just don't think there are a lot of sellers, farming their own databases enough or at all.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I've always thought that, like, collecting leads, just accumulating a database it's always struck me as being very valuable. I've always been willing to, especially like, I have some higher profit lists that I sell that are more expensive, but like, I think $15. I mean, I try to price everything like from my own perspective. Would I be willing to pay that? Or what have I been in the past? I mean, $15 is, I don't know. It seems minimal amount. As long as you're getting, a handful of leads. Even if you're even if you're that person that I just described, you're just going to go in there. You're going to pick the ones you like. The ones that match your ROI, thresholds or whatever it may be, and you buy a couple, and it's going to recoup itself. It's not that hard to make back $15. When you're looking at 19 leads like this list had. So, but there's so much value on a longer timeline than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, that's the huge part. Because someone might say, "Oh, well, this is $15. I'm not really sure I want to buy it," or "Oh, well, maybe this subscription is $150 or $200 a month for this lead list." But my whole thing is I now have a database of, like, I don't know, we're up to we're up to 35,000 leads and growing, because I'm not done getting things in there. And I've actually I've got a little envy, because I know that Oliver Flips is up to like 42 or 45,000 or something. I feel like I gotta catch up. But you know, even if I paid for every single lead that was on that list, and maybe at, if it was 50 cents a lead or a dollar a lead or whatever it is, if I'm into that lead list for 30K, over its lifetime, can you imagine the value that I could extract from that lead list over the next 12, 24, or 36 months? It's way, way more than a dollar a lead. And of course, it's not going to be every single one, but there are going to be home runs like the one that I found today, where I should easily be able to make 50, maybe 100, maybe $200 before other sellers even hop back on that listing. And then when I wait for them to fall off the listing and I come back on it 90 days after that, am I going to be able to make another $200 or $400 on it? And so now what's my ROI on the cost of that individual lead? I mean, it's in the thousands of percent. It's not, we're not even scaling it to 100 or 200%. I mean, it's 5,000, 6,000, maybe 10,000%, based on the fact that lead probably really cost me $1.
Right. Yeah, and the one thing we didn't mention is the value of a lead list, and I know it was true for me. So, and I've heard other people say it too. But well, actually, what a good point is, and I don't mind saying this on the podcast, but we talked about it privately. So on my Twitter, I wrote a tweet, and the tweet because I thought it was interesting how I arrived at the stores, right? So a couple weeks ago, I posted a tweet and it said last 5 stores that I've manually sourced. And then I just listed the stores, right? And then my point was, in this very first tweet, was I arrived there from at least 4 different methods, and I just thought it was interesting, like, because one was from a lead list. I did like what we've been talking about here, and just kind of, peeled back layers and just kind of, dug in further and further and found, ended up at a store. One of them was from Sales Gazer, like sale. And so I ended up sourcing the store for that sale or whatever coupon code. One of them was, I think I was manually storefront stocking a seller. Did a couple layers there and ended up on a store, I just thought it was interesting. So that's why I tweeted it. Well, it was one of my best performing tweets. Like, I was like, wow, and I kind of analyzed it and I said, apparently there's value. And I talked to you. So I ended up doing it again. I said, maybe I need to just do this every week and just kind of look at my sourcing spreadsheet and pull off the last 5 stores. And I'll just, I'll tweet it and maybe give a little bit of insight on how I ended up there, maybe, or, or whatever. But, and then, you mentioned it and I kind of explained that this was the case, but the value in it was that people were seeing specific stores. So I don't, maybe it was that networking effect that we talked about, to where you actually get to see something that another person that does what you do, maybe they're newer sellers, and the point that I'm taking a long time to get to is that a lead list can be really valuable to newer sellers who are still learning where to source from, and kind of, because there's of rewiring that needs to be done, because I think most of us were Amazon customers, and then you kind of see things differently once you become an Amazon seller, and it's, you kind of, you get to know how it works a little bit, and your mindset changes, and you start looking for opportunity, and you know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah,
it's just it's a different mindset, it just kind of, over. So these types of things, lead lists and seeing stores that you can look at, or codes that you didn't realize, or cashback sites that you weren't aware most lead lists that I've experienced have, cashback, uh, little prompts on to make kind of be some of the pieces put together, because it can be difficult as a newer seller to figure out how all this stuff works. You can read about it and you can study different aspects being a seller, but I think it's a little taste of kind of like, here it is in action. Here's 280 characters on what I've done over the last couple of days as a seller.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what a lead list can be valuable for too, especially if you're newer. Is you kind of broadens your perspective a little bit of exactly how many possibilities there can be out there.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I got a question for you that came up because you said you talked about cash back. What's the largest dollar amount of cash back you've received on one particular order?
One particular order. There was no. I don't have anything impressive, right? Because I'm the eternal test buyer. I'm a big chicken out there or something. But no, I think I got like, I want to say I was pushing like $70 on one transaction.
Oh, that's solid.
Yeah, especially for the units that I I can't seem to buy more of.
Right.
those test buys. So yeah, I was happy with it.
Part of the reason I ask is because I saw someone the other day post like a screenshot of like getting $800 in cash back on one order, which completely dwarfs my largest. My largest was like 200 on one order, where I got 20%. I'm also an eternal test buyer. I buy lower quantities, but I had one order that was like $1,000 across maybe 10 or 15 SKUs, and they were having like 20% cash back one day. So yeah. Which, another little plug, guys, if you're not using Rev ROI to get cash back, it's free. Go download it and install it. It won't cost you a penny. So
yeah, and don't be afraid to venture outside of Rakuten. Like Rakuten is consistently one of the lower cashback rates.
Yeah.
Almost across the board, except they run promotions and stuff where they beefed up a little bit. But yeah, venture out there. Like I think I have a total of 5 cashback sites that I use, but one of them is actually a Southwest Rapid Rewards. I use them for like Walmart, actually. Like I'll get half a point per dollar just because there's no good cash back, so that's just kind of a throwaway. So I have 4 main ones that I use. So how many do you have in your stable?
3. I like to use Top Cashback. That's probably my favorite. Active Junkie would be my favorite if they were on more sites, but yeah, I've talked to their owner, and they started because they're like really outdoorsy people, and so they focus on outdoorsy type websites, and then Rakuten just because it's everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of default. Like I think Top Cashback can be a little iffy. I've had some issues. Another affiliate link has kind of pushed them out, and then it could be tough to reactivate that, which I think is probably why some people. But I see these people like with these Rakuten pay quarterly, and they'll post screenshots of their Rakuten payout and as a flex. Can't help but think about how much more money they could have made.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's a number. It's a number that you could live off of. If they're flexing that hard, their post out. I mean, this is 5 figures worth of cash back, right? But still, like, probably on average, that is, I don't know, 20-25% what they could have gotten if they had maybe dug in a little bit and ventured outside of that Rakuten comfort zone, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Like, you really could live on if you maximize your cash back doing OA, using affiliate links from cashback sites, and then you get another. think there might be maybe one card out there where you get like 2% unlimited cash back. I, you know, you have that card, you could be talking some serious money if you were throwing up some fairly large numbers. Uh,
Yep.
and so yeah, I think people
And
really
then
do need to think about that.
and it's not fully visible in a depending on who you talk to as far as like taxes and the bookkeeping. Consult your professional, of course, and absolutely do not take any advice from me.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. This is not a fight. This is not a
but
financial show,
it's
and we are not attorneys or CPAs. No.
you mentioned active junkie,
Hmm.
which I also they're one of the ones that I use too. You could find some great percentages from them. A little hit and miss, which is fine. Like you said, they kind of specialize in outdoorsy active company or stores. But you know what was so weird is they spent a really long time being the best cashback rate on Bloomingdale's,
Interesting.
and like blowing the doors off of and even Top Cashback, which is Top Cashback runs probably more than 50% the majority of the time as the highest rate that I find, at least. But like blew the of even Top Cashback at Bloomingdale's. I think it was such a weird combination. But all right,
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
that is a weird combo. Did Bloomingdale's cancel your order? Is the question.
No, I got Bloomingdale's to go through.
Interesting. Yeah, they've always been difficult for me. I always go in and end up talking to a sales clerk, and they get paid the commission and usually work with me a little bit.
Well, it's a classy
So.
store. You have to hit enter with your pinky up. You actually, they're a little snooty about that.
Yeah, just a touch. So, well, this is going to be one of the only shows in our stable of shows that is under an hour. So, this is a good way to come back. We will be back weekly from here on out. Chris and I are going to make sure that happens. I'm actually going to ask him to hold me accountable, because typically I'm the one who's like, oh, hey, could we push? So we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. Even with spring break coming up, we're gonna make it work. So we'll be back in your ears every single week going forward. So appreciate you guys listening.
Before we sign off,
Yeah.
you want to do a quote of the week real quick?
If you got one, that'd be great.
Yeah, I feel empty inside if we end an episode without a quote. How about let's see if this one works. Well, it has to work because it's the only one I got queued up. How about success to be connected with action? Successful people keep moving. They make mistakes, but they don't quit. That's Conrad
Hilton.
All right.
I love
Yes.
I really like Conrad Hilton. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of his progeny. Paris and those folks. I'm not the biggest fan of, but I really do like him. He's got a bunch of really great quotes, and I think that's a good one.
He's got a good rewards card, an honor card if you're hacking some travel perks with your purchases too.
That's right. That's actually something I need to get better at, and something we should work on getting a guest in here to talk about travel hacking and just spilling all the secrets on that so we can get better at it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for the show this week. I hope it was a little enjoyable. Do remember, if you got some value out of this, it is not free. It does require you to hit the follow button on your favorite podcast player, or go hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and that will give us enough dopamine to get through the next recording session. Until next week, guys, thanks so much for listening, and we will see you next week on the Clear the Shelf podcast. Thanks for listening to Clear the Shelf with Chris and Chris. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a screenshot on your phone and share to Facebook, Instagram, or your favorite FBA group, and be sure to tag me and let me know why you liked it and what you'd like to hear more from us in the future. Also, I'd like to give you some free gifts for listening. Head over to rabbittrailchallenge.com and repricerchallenge.com for some free courses to further your business. Thanks for listening.